Hello, everybody, and welcome to Friends of the Force. I am your host, Sarah.
And I'm your host, Brad.
And on today's episode, we are coming to you with our reaction, discussion, spoilers, everything for the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte. Now, if you wanted our spoiler-free thoughts and you haven't listened to those yet, those will be over in our premiere reaction and recap episode, which is on the feed now. We had the opportunity to attend the premiere. Very grateful to Lucasfilm for that opportunity, and we talked about it a little bit and shared our spoiler-free reactions. So if you're like, I'm not ready for the spoilers, Sarah, that's fine. Go do that. But this will be fully spoilers, so fair warning.
But also, if you haven't watched The Acolyte, 9 p.m. on a Tuesday, come on. I believe in you.
Or
Next
8 p.m.
week.
if you live in Central Time, or 6 p.m. if you live in Pacific Time, or lots of different times if you live in other places throughout the world. Shout out to all those other places. I'm sorry if this time is much less advantageous for you.
But I believe in you is my point. I believe in you. No excuses.
No excuses. You're not allowed to listen to this episode if you haven't watched The Acolyte. I know some of you guys listen to these episodes without having reading or watched these things. Not today, guys. It's 30 minutes of your time. That's what Brad's saying on the inside.
Hey, well, guess what? Spoiler alert, there's a naked Wookiee at the end of this episode.
You just have why? Why do you have to bring up clotheslessness every time, Brad?
Because Star Wars is often very clothed.
So when we get
and so moments
of unclothed
of clotheslessness feel right. And we
Feel
get 2 of
right,
those.
okay.
We get 2 of
Okay.
those in these first episodes.
Okay.
You know,
All right.
I do love a pantsless Eldar man.
We all know. We all know. I'm trying to forget.
And will I ever shut up about shirtless Yord? No.
I will never be free, guys. I'll never be free. Okay. But before we go any further, we should probably lay the groundwork for this series. You know, we've had some series names in the past, sometimes yes, sometimes no, but we always feel a little pressure to come out with a good alliteration to represent the Friends of the Force, because we love alliteration here. So, Brad, can you kick us off with the series title and with some info on these episodes? Because I don't have that in front of me, to be really honest with you. That's why you typically lead these episodes.
This very informal name for our podcast series will be called The Acolyte Appetite. Why?
Woohoo!
Well, because we have an appetite for the Acolyte.
That's right.
And also, the characters within the Acolyte have an appetite, whether
For
it's
revenge.
for justice, revenge, justice, peace, steamed clothes,
Right.
mechnics. You know, mechnics gotta work, gotta get that bank, gotta get that bread.
Mm-hmm.
You know, appetite for money, pay my bills.
That's right.
I'm working for the Nemoidians. Life ain't great out here, okay?
Well,
we're trying.
Seems like they get days off, so that's good at least.
Yeah. An appetite for the truth.
Ooh.
An appetite to face the past, one might say.
Ooh. Perhaps.
Perhaps. An appetite for fear,
Ooh.
attachment,
Ooh.
introspection.
Right. Do you have any more?
I'm thinking. I'm thinking. An appetite for poison.
Yeah.
An appetite
Yum,
for the
yum.
noodles in that little
Question
opening
mark?
scene. There's a noodle thing in there. Wasn't there like a
That's
noodle?
right.
Yeah.
That is, yeah.
I have an appetite for noodles, just like
Me
Imri
too.
Kantaros has an appetite for his noodle cart on Port Halip.
That's right.
Shout out High Republic.
Shout
Just,
out
you know,
High
Ireland.
Republic.
Renesta
Yep.
Rowe in the show. Okay, that rhymed. I'm done.
Yeah, you gotta
Carry it on.
quit while you're ahead, if we can even call this ahead, because you've been rolling on the bit for a minute. But that's okay.
Yeah,
We love the
yeah.
bit. We love the
I
bit.
have an appetite to continue this episode, so it's not 10
Ooh.
hours long.
Delicious.
And I have to edit it. Editor,
Right.
cut all that. Cut all that.
He's the editor, guys.
I'm the editor. Spoiler alert. Another spoiler alert. Okay.
No need to alert the
Anyways.
spoilers. This is a spoiler-filled
Yes.
episode.
Yes. So now that you have the vibe for this episode, this is the Acolyte Appetite. We'll be here every single week talking about the Acolyte in depth, talking about funny moments, talking about themes, talking about connected dots, talking about our Yord, our nearest and dearest Yord.
That's
We
right.
have a very special segment for Yord that we'll be kicking off today's episode with. But before we do that, Sarah, I want to talk about the opening crawl, because we did get an opening crawl on the
Yes.
show. and I loved it.
All right.
It's been a while. It's been a while since we've gotten open and crawl. We did get one for Ahsoka, but it was in
Ooh.
red text.
That's different. That's a totally different
scary.
vibe.
Yeah.
You know, totally different vibe.
This was the blue text, although the opening crawl is yellow. Yeah,
but it wasn't
it's not
a scroll.
Yeah.
So it was like Rogue One-esque solo or solo-esque.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. Okay.
I like
100 years before the rise of the Empire. Now, I saw a tweet, and I forget who tweeted this because I was just scrolling by, and I apologize. But they were like, so it's supposedly taking place, you know, there are 13 years that the prequels cover. So we're like, what, 70 years before the Phantom Menace. And we were also being told at one point that we're like 100 years or 50 years before. We've been told a couple of different things about where we are in the timeline. So approximately 70-ish years, 70 something years, or 60 something years. I don't know. I can't do math. I mean, I studied things you write papers for. I didn't study math. So anyway, something along that. So I thought that was interesting. It is 100 years before the rise of the Empire. It is a time of peace. The Jedi Order and the Galactic Republic has prospered for centuries without war. What about those pesky Nihil and Martian Row? Anyway, not my business. But in the dark corners of the galaxy, a powerful few learn to use the Force in secret. One of them, a lone assassin, risks discovery to seek revenge.
There's a lot here. First and foremost, yeah, like you said, peace. Are we sure about that? Martian Row didn't blow up the Starlight Beacon for nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Or like fly a ship into Hessal.
This crawl is revisionist history. No, but in all seriousness, though, a powerful few learn to use the Force in secret.
A few suggests more than two. I'm just saying because we see a powerful couple, a powerful duo. No.
Right.
Rule of two whomst?
Although maybe the rule of two has not been enacted yet. Maybe this is where we see it, you know, we slim down some of those numbers. Maybe we go from a few to just those two. Who are the two? Who's the master? Who's the apprentice?
Chimere and May. Next question. I saw this theory on Twitter like an hour ago and I'm subscribed.
Oh, we will get into
anyway,
it. We're going to get into it. Yeah.
We'll talk about it.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I like the crawl. I like the return of the crawl. I think more Star Wars shows should do a crawl. Because when my mom goes to watch The Acolyte, she's going to be like, when the hell is this? And then she's going to see the crawl. She's going to go, oh, cool. I'm in. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So many Star Wars shows. Got to keep up. Keeping up with the Star Wars dash-ins. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Before we get into the meat and potatoes of the show, which is lots of talk of the Force and the Jedi, we must talk about Yord. Now, you might wonder why we're putting Yord at the front of the show. And the reality is what we had, you know, very shortly ago was we can't wait to talk about Yord. We cannot wait until the end to talk about Yord because we'll realize that we'll be tiptoeing around Yord the whole time. And we love Yord. So, yeah. This is our most important. You have to come back every week to get the latest and greatest. Oh my Yord. This segment is all about our favorite Yord moments of every episode, or maybe of the 2 episodes in this case, because we just love a guy named Yord.
He's just Yord.
He's just Yord.
Just Yord.
When we love him.
You know?
So
he is all the Yords, one might say.
He is all the Yords.
One Rey Skywalker might say to Yord.
Right.
You are all the Yords, Yord.
You are all the Yords.
Do you think Rey heard Yord when she looked up in the sky on Exegol and he was just like, where's my iron? Like everybody's like doing like these like really like sophisticated like, you got it, Rey. Go get him, Rey.
He's probably like, go read a Jedi text, Rey. Make sure that you know the protocol, Rey.
Rey, read the rule book before you melt off Palpatine's face with your lightsabers. That's not in the rule book.
Make sure you tailor your robes before you go to fight somebody, Rey. Anyway, let's talk about Yord. So Brad walked out of the premiere let's be really clear here. Brad walked out of the premiere. It was immediately discussing Yord. And I was like, Brad, I mean, like, I get it, but like, why are you so fixated on Yord? And he's like, he's just he's Yord. Like, how can you not? And I was like, I don't, like, yeah, but he's just a guy. He's just a guy. And I was wrong, folks. I didn't see the vision. I didn't see the vision that Brad had. And now we have the Yord Horde, which somebody on Twitter came up with a shout out. And everybody's a part of the Yord Horde. Everybody.
The official Star Wars account tweeted #Yord Horde.
Therefore, Yord Horde is canon.
Yeah, canon.
So I, once again, admit that I was wrong about Yord initially and the level of hype for Yord. I think this show, if it only had a Yord, that'd be fine, you know, because Yord is just, he's so Yord.
Mm-hmm. And not that you were a Yord hater. It was just like you didn't have that like feral need for Yord. And I think now we all collectively had a feral desire to see more Yord on our screen.
It was pretty unanimous. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was very happy that everybody in the Star Wars fandom got to experience the shirtless Yord scene of him ironing his clothes and Jackie just being like, Yord, put some clothes on. And like him kind of grinning, iconic. You know, like, come on. Amazing.
Yeah. Okay. I'll do that. Yeah. Okay. So is that, Brad, we didn't talk about this beforehand, but is that our Oh My Yord moment this week?
For the sake of like the easy route, no, it's not. Although I think that's like S tier Yord moment, and we can't really count that in our Oh My Yord moment of the week.
Well, wow, you're making up rules that I did not subscribe to. I do not agree to these.
It's just my reason to talk more about Yord.
Then keep going.
Yeah. No, my favorite Yord moment was when at the middle of episode 2, when they're trying to figure out how to approach Chimere, and he comes up with this elaborate plan, and he's like, we're going to go in there, we're going to confront him, stun him if we must, and get some answers. And then Jackie's just like, or we could just send her in because she's a twin and have her talk to him. And then Soul's like, yeah, that's the right idea. And then you're going, this violates giving a civilian a weapon violates 13 precepts. And then Soul's just like, no. We're doing it. I just love that. And the look, I captured it in a screenshot. The look on Yord's face when he realizes his plan is not the chosen one. But don't worry, Yord. You're the chosen one in my heart.
That's
I love you. Also, I'm mortified that Charlie Barnett has officially, according to sources, people on Twitter that apparently know his manager, Charlie Barnett has seen my tweet that says, sometimes baby girl is just a man named Yord. And I'm happy about that. I hope Charlie Barnett got a good laugh.
I thought that was ridiculous and hilarious. Shout out to Charlie Barnett, who we obviously love because we love Yord and he is doing a great job as Yord. But before we go, I also have to mention the moment where Yord is sitting on Osha's bed and he is sitting so politely and he has his robes, his kind of cape, just, beautifully sat behind him. And then when he stands up, he makes sure that it lays very nicely once again. And I just, what a guy. What a guy, Yord. He's so silly. What a silly guy.
Permission to speak freely, Sarah, about Yord?
I'm a little afraid, but yeah, go for it.
How is it that all of my favorite Star Wars characters, again, end up clothesless at some point? How is that a coincidence?
I have some thoughts and feelings about that, but we can talk about that off air.
Elzar man pants, gone.
Right.
Yord robes, gone. Kylo Ren cowl, gone. Cassian Andor shirt in Andor when he takes a shower on the one planet, gone.
Mm-hmm. We can take that conversation offline, but Happy Pride Month. I don't know.
But in all seriousness, Yord is a bright spot. I'm just so happy that I was able to log on Twitter, which is usually just a cesspool. Log on Tuesday night and just see like Yord memes galore across my timeline. Like that felt good. I saw one meme that was really funny. It was like, fuck you if you don't like Yord. If you like Yord, cool, welcome to the club. But if not, fuck you. I'm just like
I saw that
people are just like so unhinged, so funny about I wouldn't even call him like a glub shitto. He's just Yord. Like Yord is Yord. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that like I'm so glad that like High Republic Twitter is able to get in on the mainstream, because I mean High Republic Twitter memes are great. They're so good. The High Republic Twitter vibes are great. So good. So now that High Republic is on the live action beat, that's the stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Yord is really radiating the like Cyril Karn energy as well.
It's like Cyril Karn plus Reith Silas plus Elzar Mann.
Yeah, exactly. Like Cyril is that guy who's like abide by the rules, like really make sure my outfit looks good, like
A little pathetic,
upholding the
or
law, you know, yeah,
a lot
pathetic man, a total prick, as Charlie Barnett would say. And Yord is the same way. He's just like, I became a knight for 2 years. I know all the rules. I know what rules you're going to break and how you're going to break them. If you tell me, I'm going to report you to the authorities, mister.
Yeah, he's somebody who definitely tattletales. I feel a little bit bad for his Padawan, because how could you be a Padawan under that? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're a teen. Think about that. You're a teen and you've got like a very strict by the book parent. You know, that Padawan is going to become knight and then act a fool and like act out. You know, like they're going to get to college and they're going to make some choices that they regret. You know? Like they're going to get a tattoo that's like not good on a night when they're out partying. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's because Yord is inflexible about his beliefs and about the world.
Very inflexible. Yeah.
Anyway, hopefully Yord can see the light and, you know, learn to embrace adventure a little bit more, like just like Reith Silas has.
Although I will say I'm very fearful about Yord. If Yord dies, Sarah, I fear this might be my least favorite Star Wars ever.
Uh-oh.
I fear I might boycott it. I fear I might
become a hater,
create a YouTube channel and do 4-hour live streams about how much I'm upset
they killed off Yord.
That they killed off Yord. For legal reasons, I'm not going to do that.
And for legal
but I'll
reasons,
think
that's
about
a
it.
joke. But that's also
for legal reasons, also a joke. Yes. Yep. Don't come at me. But also, don't kill Yord. But also, if Yord dies, you're gonna hear it. You're gonna hear it. I said it. I'm laying down the line. That's where I draw the line with Star Wars. I
just feel like everybody's a goner. You know, presume everybody dead until they're not. Because like getting into I'm about to transition. You're about to be so impressed by my transition. Kind of moving to the actual substance of the first episode itself. The fight with Indara is like the first thing we get, and she's a goner immediately. I'm of the mind that we just assume everybody's dead.
Sarah's like, you're dead. Get over it. Get over
Jackie,
it, bud.
You're dead. Soul dead. Jackie dead. Osha dead. May dead. Everybody's going to die in this show. You know why? Because the Sith are going to rise to power and they're going to murder everyone.
I feel like the day Yor dies is going to be like the day that the Red Wedding episode of Game of Thrones premiered on TV. We're going to be like collectively mourning Yord.
Well, I mean,
we're gonna be like, what happened?
Right. Why would you do this to me?
Why?
I just feel like since we've seen some of like lightsaber action and also battle with our tooth fairy, it just like, I don't think it's gonna go well for Yord.
Like, does Yord have enough plot armor? I think Soul has substantially more plot armor than anybody else. You know, I think out of the 4 Jedi that May is getting revenge on, like he's the one that could keep fighting on.
Right.
But yes, I think we've talked enough about Yord. Although if Yord episode or Yord moments do come up on this episode, I will be tangenting for another 5 minutes because you're allowing me to step on my Yord box. It's not my soapbox. It's my Yord box. It's a box where the bottom of the box is cut out so I can place my Black Series Yord and my Funko Yord in the box that I step on.
Got it.
And really imbue it with the Yord energy. The Yenergy? The Yordergy?
It doesn't have a good...
It's like the Kenergy, but like the Yord
doesn't work
energy.
Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, technically there's a Y at the end of energy. You know what it stands for?
Energy.
Yord. Yeah, the Y in energy stands for Yord. But yeah, let's talk about the episode. So episode 1. We got titles. You and I saw the premiere. We didn't have a title for these episodes. Right. So episode 1 is titled Lost and Found, written and directed by Leslie Headland. Episode 2 Revenge/Justice, directed by Leslie Headland and written by Jason McAuliffe and Charmaine DeGraw. And I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, but you wrote great stuff. So thank you. Thank you so much. So yeah, where do you want to head, Sarah? What do you want to head on this journey of the Acolyte?
Well, let's kind of go back to when I attempted to transition.
Yeah.
A second ago.
I'm just laying the stage again. I'm sorry.
Right. The death of Andara right at the beginning. Let's talk about Jedi number 1, Goner. Only see her in flashbacks from now on, which we haven't gotten yet. So it's really interesting to me because we got that first shot in the entire series in promo clips, and we also got a lot of substance of the Andara fight in promo clips and in the clip from the end of the Phantom Menace in theaters, et cetera, et cetera. So we've seen a lot of this before, but it doesn't end so well for Andara, as we now know. R.I.P. Queen. Love you, Queen. But I think there's one really, really vital quote from the beginning of this fight that is one to put a pin in. When May is, like, fight me or attack me, and she goes, "Jedi do not attack the unarmed." And May says, "That's not true." She says, "Yes, you do." How do you feel about all of that right off the bat?
Ooh. I think there's a larger mystery at play with this show. I know the first episode sets up a lot. It explains a lot. It kind of puts the chess pieces on the board. But like, the chess pieces are put on the board at the end of the chess game. We don't know where those chess pieces started. We don't know how they moved to get to those final spots. And so now it's like we're going to unravel. Did somebody cheat? Did somebody move a chess piece the way they weren't supposed to move it?
Are we watching the game in reverse?
Yeah, are we? I almost think we're taking like a Last Jedi direction with the show, where it's like the Rashomon effect. Did Ben feel like Luke was going to kill him? Yes, that's true. Ben felt that. Did Luke feel like he was getting into his own rage, and then like he was like, actually, never mind, but it was too late? Yeah, that's also true. Is it just two people who had bad judgment in that moment? Yeah. Mostly Luke, probably. I think the cool thing about the show is like, where was the judgment misplaced on this night on Brendok? What happened? Who made the mistake? Who caused the fire truly? What is the truth? We know the Jedi have a history of concealment.
Did you know that if it doesn't exist in the Jedi archives, it doesn't exist?
And I like, that's a meme, but like, that's like so critical to the way the Jedi think.
Oh, 100%.
And speaking of files, like, we know from this episode that in Osha's file, it's not mentioned she has a twin. Is it not mentioned she has a twin because the twin allegedly died, so they just struck it from the archive? Did they intentionally not include it because they knew the twin was still out there? Because to your point about this fight, I think there's a lot baked in here when they're fighting, and Andara finally gets a hold of May, and she sees the mark on her head, the tattoo from Mother Anasea's people. She goes, "What are you doing here?" That's not a question you ask somebody that you think has been dead for 16 years.
Yeah, it wasn't. She goes, "You." So it's like, okay, May or Osha. And then she sees the dots, the tattoo, and then she goes, "What are you doing here?" As opposed to saying her name or saying you're dead or saying, like, what are you doing here? As opposed to you're alive.
Yeah. And I think making this the first scene of the series is very telling. It's very important. It's setting that stage of like, something went wrong. May's motivations maybe aren't entirely misplaced, but also like the Jedi are maybe trying to run from the thing they want to hide. And that maybe that truth can't hide forever, because we know, as Sol says to Jecki later in the episode, our memories are lessons. If we don't meditate on the past, we're doomed to repeat it. And I think that's important too.
Right.
What a scene though. The choreography. Oh my God. Martial arts in Star Wars. Like, the fighting was so good. The moment when Carrie Ann Moss like finally takes out that green lightsaber, the lightsabers looked really good too. I don't know, they just like felt more like, I think like some lightsabers can like look a little like a little bit off in some ways more than we're used to, but like these looked really, really good. This one looked really, really good. I am sad it ultimately was her lightsaber. Do you feel like Carrie Ann Moss was wasted? Do you feel like
No.
You know?
I can't say I can't say that. Like I've seen some commentary about that, and trust me,
Yeah.
I'm typically the first on that beat. I am typically the amount of crap I got from people in when the Mandalorian season 1 came out, because I was like, I mean, and even the Book of Boba Fett, when I'm like, these women are wasted. Anyway, I don't think we can say that yet, because we have seen her in the trailers in flashbacks. I think we can get to the end of this season and maybe make a judgment about it. But since we know there are more scenes from her, I'm not ready to make that conclusion right now.
I agree. And I wanted to ask you that question because I know what you felt about Ming-Na Wen, and I think that reversal of that decision was totally in response to some of that criticism. But yeah, I'm excited to see like what Carrie Ann Moss brings to the table when we get to the chaos of that night and the many perspectives of it that we might see, like where she shines, where she like capital A acts.
Yeah.
Because even in this opening scene, like she's just killer. Just Trinity with a lightsaber. I can't get better than that, you know?
She's very, very cool in this fight scene, and I think she does a really great job. So I'm hoping and expecting more based on what we saw in the trailers. So like, my opinion is on hold. So if you're interested in that, wait a minute. Mid-July.
Put a pin in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
Hey, don't put a timetable on the Acolyte. I'm too sad. Don't say it's the end of
There's gonna be
July.
another season.
I know, but that's so far away. What am I gonna do?
You're gonna read some more High Republic books.
High Republic
Go
books.
to Japan.
True.
Revenge
Acolyte
of the Sith
season 2 panel.
Right. There's a lot of things that will happen. So don't worry about it.
Okay.
We're
I'm
here
happy
for the
again.
ride now, but like we have to get off this roller coaster sometime, or we're gonna throw up.
Okay, you got a point. I'm no longer mentally ill. Continue.
Oh boy. Okay, I don't even know where I was.
I'm
going.
on a bender today. I'm sorry. I'm feeling a certain way. Sleep deprived.
Right.
We're going with it.
Yeah. Yeah. We are certainly going with it at this point. Okay. So, do we have anything more to say about Indara before we move on?
No, I'm good. I'm good there.
To other parts here. Oh, I actually have one thing to say about this fight, and it's not about Indara, but it is about May, and it's that she knows that she can take advantage of Indara and get that final blow by attempting to attack the civilian, bartender who owns this bar, right? And she knows that she can catch her off guard because we wouldn't want the civilian to die. However, May also does not kill the civilian. She sees the baby and she walks away.
Is that not the cutest little baby alien creature you've ever seen in Star Wars?
I mean, first of all, yes. Second of all, she has humanity, guys.
She does.
There's something there. There's a piece of her heart that's still good because she didn't take that blow, and she probably could have and should have. You know, in terms of her own mission. So I can fix her.
And I have more thoughts on this too when we get to Torben. But put a pin in that because I think the ways in which May goes about these kills are a little outside the box. Yeah. Anyways. Next up, go to a Nemoidian ship. I was so happy to see Trade Federation, like the ship with the blue paint, the like silver, dark silver, like, I was feeling the prequels in the Chili's. I was so happy. The ships just looked great. Like everything looked great. The Nemoidians looked awesome. I love them. I'm glad that they're like the way they speak was, changed slightly as opposed to how they were 25 years ago, which were a bit, problematic in some ways. So I'm glad that was updated, I guess you could say. I I love when the Jedi Vectors show up and the Nemoidians are like, Jedi. Ugh. I remember you laughed. I feel like you were laughing next to me when we watched that moment. And it's just like, when I think of the show and the Easter eggs, there are so many Easter eggs in the show so far, but they're not like beat you over the head with them. It's like, oh, like the Moidians don't like the Jedi. And so then you're in your mind, you're thinking, oh, like when Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan show up and they're like, oh my God, the diplomats are Jedi. Oh, come on. Let's poison them out of the room.
And then also when May is like, and the Trade Federation doesn't use shields. I was like,
yeah.
LOL.
Anakin cut to Anakin Skywalker flying into a hangar bay, just, for fun.
Right.
Let's blow some stuff up from the inside. Also, shout out to, speaking of Easter eggs, just the fact that R2 units are legislated by the Republic, or droids in general are legislated to be mechanics, but like OSHA, it's funny because like OSHA is working the mechanic job, which is super dangerous and is legislated to only be performed by droids, and her name is OSHA. Like, are you kidding me? Is that not a little bit on the nose?
Right. It's also funny considering that means the Trade Federation has to pay her like a wage and like has to like feed her.
Yeah.
When they could just replace her with AI. And they would probably save money replacing her with AI. You know what I'm saying?
But what does she say? She's like, droids aren't as flexible. Sorry, Pip, you're pretty flexible too, little guy.
Yeah, which brings us to the man, the myth, the legend. Pip the droid.
Pip.
How do we feel about Pip the droid, Brad? What are your thoughts on Pip the droid?
Pip the droid represents something I never, like, I know we say the phrase like, I never knew I needed it until now. Like, but like handheld Star Wars droids are actually something I never even conceived of in my mind as being a possibility of like, it's like a Game Boy, but it's a droid. That is so freaking cool. Like, I love the way that Star Wars, like every new project somehow iterates on droids and makes them like a new model or like a new type of droid that we just like BB-8. I remember when we first saw BB-8 in the teaser trailer, he was rolling. We were like, huh? He's rolling?
He's rolling. He's so cute. What a precious little baby BB-8.
Yeah. And so like Pip is just that next generation of droid now. K2SO I think was another one where we hadn't seen that type of droid. L3 and Dio, I thought Dio from the Rise of Skywalker. So like I love droids in Star Wars is my point. I think they're neat. I know you love droids too, especially.
I love droids, and I'm also drinking tonight out of my droid cup, which Brad got for me from the Disney parks. Thank you, bestie. It's legendary. It's got a bunch of droids on the top, and droids on the cup, and I feel cool when I drink out of it. So,
as you sip it on the pod, that's your new pod, right. Your new pod cup.
And I gotta tell you, I'm really hydrating now. I've had like 3 or 4 of these cups today because it's delightful.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you. I'm taking my own advice at the end of the pod when I tell everybody else to stay hydrated. I myself am now staying hydrated.
How appropriate for you to be drinking water on the Acolyte Appetite, which reminder to all of you listeners, please hydrate and have a snack while you're listening.
Especially since the weather is getting warmer, at least where we live. So
yeah.
Anyway.
But I think being in the Nemoidians, with the Nemoidians on the Trade Federation ship, I thought that was all very cool. I thought the scene where like May was on the ship and fixing some stuff and she sees the fire and there's like a moment where she's hearing screams and she's having like kind of maybe like a traumatic memory come back to the forefront of her mind. I thought that was very interesting. And it just makes me more excited I feel weird like saying like, I can't wait to see what bad things happened. I'm just very intrigued to see like what happened that night, especially through her eyes. And we've seen some of those shots in the trailer with like her and Soul running away. And, I told you, I feel like I told you in our trailer preview that like, I thought maybe they CGI'd out one of the twins in one of those shots.
Yeah, you did. It might have been when we watched through all of the TV spots and everything. Yeah. We were in LA before we saw the premiere.
Yes,
together.
That's where it was. Yeah. And I'm still not fully convinced that maybe is not a possibility because, Soul talks about wanting to save both of them. He tried. And so I'm like wondering like, what happened there? Anyways, point being, the Jedi arrive, Yord and his Padawan Tassiloa, who's his first live action Zygerian, which is pretty neat.
Mhm.
Looked great. But this gives us that, iconic Yord flip the robe moment on the bed. And do you think there's a little bit of a history between Yord and Osha? Because Osha walks in and she's like, oh my God, Yord, like finally passed your trials. Never thought I'd see the day. And he's like so excited to finally see her again after all these years. Like, is there something there? Does something happen with them? Were they little, buddy as Padawans?
I find that so funny because part of me is like, there's no way that Yord has really broken the rules, because I think the guilt would literally eat him alive. But they clearly know each other, and she's clearly very fond of him. Like, oh, Yord, my pal, my friend. So I would love to know more about their relationship when they were both Padawans. But also like the thought that like Osha, I've been thinking about May for so long as a character. Osha would be a knight by now. But she never made it out of the Padawan phase.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, we learned that she's been gone for 6 years. I thought that was really good context. She joined the Order when she was 8. And I also thought it was interesting the Jedi were concerned about her age. Because she was mourning, and also because she was mourning over her losing her mothers, her sister, her village. So another interesting thread between the prequels, Anakin Skywalker and Osha, being like this kid who just maybe shouldn't have joined the Jedi Order, and because they did, maybe led to some bad things happening as a result.
It's so interesting to me because like nothing about the setup is new. And I don't mean that pejoratively. Like nothing about the setup is new, but it feels quite fresh. Like the twins isn't new. Being too old for the Jedi isn't new. The Sith aren't new. The death of Jedi isn't new between Order 66 and, the Nile. Like none of this, it feels brand new and novel in terms of Star Wars, but the way that it's all put together feels quite novel, which is fun. But also is like, oh, this is so Star Wars because I know all of these elements, which is great because it makes them feel fresh when it clearly, Leslie's putting this together and it feels like something we already know without it being full of nostalgia at the same time. It's a really interesting balance that I think she's striking with the premise of the show.
Yeah, well said. I could not agree more. I think that's when Star Wars is at its best, like taking the things that we know we like and that we vibe with and that makes Star Wars, and just like the slightest twist, the slightest little twist. And I think here that mystery is really like the meat and potatoes of the show. Like what happened and the relationship between these two characters as sisters. Like, oh gosh, I need more. I need it to be next Wednesday ASAP.
Next Wednesday, so we're already talking about
Tuesday.
it, or next Tuesday, so you're watching
Tuesday. See, look, I'm Wednesday pilled. I used to be Friday pilled with Disney Plus. I miss those days.
Right, and then we were Wednesday because we recorded on Wednesdays in general.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Wednesday right now, and also Brad hasn't slept, so
yeah. Could you tell, listener? Could you tell? Yeah.
Maybe with the amount of Yord, it's possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't need sleep. I have Yord.
That's
yeah.
That's what's gonna bring us through the next 6 weeks. I can already tell.
Yeah. I will say the scene when she's taken into custody and put on the prison ship and that whole crashing sequence was really interesting. I thought, like, also just like a side note, a parasite being used on one of the prisoners to like cover their mouth and like subdue them. It was kind of interesting. Like, I don't know. It just feels a little much.
It's giving boar gullet.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And it like flaps away. It's like, I don't know. It felt very, it was kind of silly. It's like those like classic like Star Wars silly things of like, you just got a thing on his mouth and it's an alien. Anyways, it's just funny. But we get to, I believe the planet is somewhere.
We go to Coruscant and we get the introduction of Soul.
Very importantly, Lee Jung Jae in my Star Wars. Yes, please.
Right. He's so good in this role immediately. Like, I'm so endeared to Soul. And if I find out that he did something wrong, and he definitely did. Same with Kelnaka. I'm not looking forward to knowing what happened on that night, because like if the secret gets out and Kelnaka's actually a terrible person, like Like, what am I going to do? I was standing a bad Wookiee, you know, like we don't, yeah, I stand Black Chrysanthemum, but like, he's kind of a villain anyway. All right.
Yeah.
But if I'm like, oh, Kalnaka, love of my life. And it's like, Kalnaka kicks puppies. I'd be like, how dare you, Kalnaka? So like, that's what I feel like we're headed to. But anyway, right now, I love Master Soul. Nobody can touch my baby boy, Master Soul. Like, he's incredible. He's everything. Okay. He's everything. The Jedi Master. He is like space dad, space leader, space mentor. We love that guy. Immediately.
Kalnaka actually wore a very, very problematic costume for Halloween one year, and that's why he has vowed to never wear clothes again. And that's why he's naked at the end of the episode.
No.
Kalnaka, no more clothes for Kalnaka. I'm sorry.
Kalnaka, do better, bestie.
I know.
Better.
Kalnaka, it's 2024, or for you, I guess it's like, what, like 100 BBY. So Kalnaka, come on.
But like, we're definitely not counting it as BBY because they're like, imagine if the in-universe time counters 100 years before the battle began.
Yeah, I know we could prevent it, but like, you know, we can't, because then how are we going to measure time anymore if we don't have BBY? It's like, you know, we can't stop it. We can't stop the BBY.
Anyway, this also gives us
before
the introduction. But what did you say?
BBY? Bad before Yord? I don't know.
Bad
I'm trying to think
before
of it.
Yord. Okay. This also gives us the introduction of on-screen live action Jedi Master, Jedi Elder, Vernestra Rowe.
Everybody claps.
What a legend. We love her. Asexual queen.
Come on the pod.
Happy Pride Month. Vernestra Rowe on my television.
Mm-hmm.
But also everybody else, Leslie Headland making the TV show, and her wife Rebecca Henderson on the television, and Charlie Barnett on the television, and Amanda Stenberg on the television. Happy Pride Month, babes.
Happy Pride Month indeed.
I apologize if I left anybody out.
Mm-hmm.
She's a little like more stern than I would expect, but also she's old. So I want to know what has happened in the past 95 years.
Yeah, like why is she kind of more stoic? I mean, she's not like not friendly, you know, but she's definitely serving a sort of like, she's serving like that, like you said, like that elder role, like that very like renowned, respected Jedi, like almost like a Yoda in a way. I don't know if we'll see Yoda in the series.
No,
or is
Yoda.
she kind of the Yoda,
Less Yoda
stand-in?
The better. Yoda hater. Boo. Just kidding. I'm not a Yoda hater.
I was surprised Lucasfilm didn't pull the Yoda card in the first 2 episodes to be like, Yoda. I was kind of hoping for Yoda, I'll be honest. If we see him like next week, I'll be happy.
Nah, I don't think we need Yoda. I would like to see other members of the Jedi Council. Like, give me some of the council members that we see in the Living Force.
Appa Rin CCs, let's go.
Yariel Poof.
Oh my god, no. War criminal. The worst. He's a war criminal. He doesn't know anything about justice.
Well, that's what makes him interesting though, right?
True. But I loved Soul. I love Soul. He's got that like warmth. He's got that friendliness. And I agree. Like the moment he started talking, I was like, oh yeah, like if I were a Padawan, I would love Master Soul.
Right. And it's really clear off the bat that like he has a lot of caring, and that he really, you know, when says like, let me be the one to bring her in, feel like that immediately to me feels like, one, he feels a responsibility to who he believes to be Osha. 2, he feels like my take is that he feels that he can emotionally appeal to her.
And he's probably not wrong either.
Right.
Because of that connection, that attachment that he still feels for
right,
Osha.
which is what we get in the moment where she's like, I didn't do it. And he's like, I believe you.
Yeah, which I thought was really powerful too, because a lot of people have made the comparison between Ahsoka when she's accused of a murder by the Jedi, and also like Osha in the same moment. So I think there's some really cool parallels there. Even like I think Anakin believed Ahsoka to some degree, if I remember correctly. And so like Soul having that same faith and belief in Osha and knowing who she is, right? And it's also that like, I think in some ways it's like he's still carrying the guilt, because he even feels like if she is guilty, then it is my failure. Let me take accountability. So there also might be a part of Soul that's like, in some ways I have to believe she's not guilty, because if she is guilty, like what does that mean about what I taught her and who I am and like what I passed down, right? Because as Yoda says in The Last Jedi, like we are what they grow beyond, right? And so for Soul,
Right.
like if Osha grows beyond and becomes a criminal who murders Jedi, what does that say about him, you know? And so I think he's trying to not, I think he legitimately believes Osha is innocent, but I think to some degree it's also what it says about him that is driving his actions in that moment, his belief in himself that he did the right thing.
I think that also like can be extrapolated though to May as a character though, because he knows who she is,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever happened, doodles,
Yike.
doodles, you know.
Yikes.
So
Yeah. I have to say, I loved in that scene too, Yord being like, in the name of the Galactic Republic, stop. I'm like,
he's
Yord, enough.
He's so Yord.
Mm-hmm.
He's so Yord. So yeah, that brings us to pretty much the end of this episode, but we have our one little epilogue moment, which I think, you know, for me, if I have to like have a criticism of this, we kind of touched on these, I think, in our preview episode, but the pacing is a little funky throughout these two episodes, and they have very abrupt sort of endings. And this is abrupt ending number one, where we see May on this planet that has some islands and some oceans, and our Tooth Fairy, which is his name until it decides not to be his name. That's up to Star Wars, because Baby Yoda was Baby Yoda for a long time. You know what I'm saying? But he says the Jedi live in a dream they believe everyone shares. If you attack a Jedi with a weapon, you will fail. But an acolyte, right? Like an acolyte kills without a weapon. Okay. So that's a little ominous, you know? And it's abrupt, but it is setting us up for why, maybe not why, but why we have this character who's killing like this. And also the fact that not everyone shares a dream in the Force, a dream about what the galaxy should be. It feels like our good old buddy Marcion Rowe, who was like, I think we should have chaos, actually. And everybody's like, what are you talking about, chaos? And he's like, chaos. Not anarchy, because I rule. So chaos.
So what do you ultimately believe is the dream here? Is it that like Jedi code of there is no whatever, there is peace, yada yada yada, the Jedi creed? Is that what you think it is? And they think the Jedi can live by that and pretend that's what they live up to, but like really there is no peace, there is only violence.
Well, yeah, I think the Jedi desire order, right? They desire order, and they believe they achieve order through peace and justice. However, it's not necessarily that easy, because not everybody has the same opinion about what the world should look like. So therefore, the peace and justice doesn't go towards the same end that everybody's hoping for. Not everybody wants to live in harmony.
You know, I do share some of your criticism as well. I think both episodes kind of end abruptly, but in my mind, those are more like very small nitpicks, because a lot of what the show is giving is good, is great even. And those are small things I can kind of, you know, swipe aside with how many things are in the plus column for me. But I thought this monologue was really interesting, because when you think of the beginning of this episode, the Acolyte is telling May, you know, steel or laser are no threat to them. We see when she is fighting Indara, that is the case, right? Like she can't win that battle. It's not until she threatens the bartender that's when she's able to strike the killing blow.
Mm-hmm.
In that moment, she's killing the dream. She's killing that illusion that like the Jedi bring peace. No, where the Jedi go, they bring violence. May strikes the killing blow. It's because of that, you know, and it's the same thing with Torben in many ways. Like it is a mental kill. It is a kill of the mind, of the soul, of the spirit, of his emotions. He gives up on himself and for what he has done or felt that he has done, you know? And I think that's really interesting with the show, is like what's going to happen with Kalnaka, what is going to happen with Soul. These might not be violent deaths. They might not be killed with a blade. Maybe there are some worse deaths than that, you know?
Potentially.
Yeah.
Should we transition into episode 2 with that?
Well, I want to ask you quick though. What did you think of the
Okay.
Tooth Fairy's voice?
Creepy.
Yeah,
The Tooth Fairy freaks me out.
kind of sounded like Ultron from Age of Ultron.
Oh, that's a solid comparison.
Yeah. Anyways, I had no other thoughts. It was definitely creepy. I thought the money shot of the red lightsaber was pretty cool, but again, it was like the abruptness
also-
of it. I was like, oh, cool. Oh, it's over.
But also,
okay.
like, why is he just? There's been another time where it's like a character has brought out their lightsaber for no good reason. Like, there's no point in doing. Oh, it's the mall It's the mall clip in Solo. Or it's like, what is he doing? What is he doing?
It's always the Sith. They just want to show off. They're like, look at my red lightsaber. Yeah.
That's their vibe, 100%.
Like Vader in Rogue One, he's like, look at my red lightsaber. Like, I could kill you all with my hands, but like, red lightsaber.
It's giving like, I got a big loud car that I got to rev up on this residential street. So everybody knows that I have a cool car. Anyway, we all know.
I think with that being said, Sarah, let's jump over to episode 2, which this was a really good episode. I thought it was an excellent use of the fighting in the show, like between Saul and May. I thought there was just some good sequences in general. Some new characters. We get Chimere in this one, most importantly, which we'll talk about. Torben, who doesn't have much to say, but when he does, it kind of makes you think. Just a little bit. But we spend most of our time on the planet of Olega, which Olega. I almost wrote it as Omega in my notes. I was like, Omega. I miss you, Omega. But we start the episode with May and Chimere in the shop. Chimere has taken over an apothecary, and he's kind of guessed that he killed a person running in and is now taken over. And May is looking for a solution to kill Torben, who that's actually the true opening of this episode. Her trying to kill Torben. He is in a like stasis mode. There is a shield around him. She needs an alternative solution. So Chimere, with some of May's input, comes up with the Bunta poison, which is native to May and Osha's homeworld, which is like, okay, I know who created this poison. When they find out later on.
Right. It's like if you're going to make a poison and you don't want anybody to know who committed this murder, maybe don't like connect it to your very specific homeworld.
Yeah, come on. You got to think about that a little bit more, May. Come on. But this Chimere is such an interesting character because when we watched the episodes first, I kind of left them feeling like Chimere is just a guy.
Yeah.
He's just a silly guy.
Just a silly
But
guy.
the more people have been talking about Chimere on the timeline, I'm like starting to be more in the direction of there is more to him than he is letting on, right?
AKA
He seems
Lord of the Sith, Tooth Fairy Chimere.
Yeah. Even if he's not necessarily the Lord of the Sith, he might be a Sith Lord in some sense. Like he might be somebody who could help orchestrate the rise of the Sith because I feel like he's putting on this very silly guy. Ha ha ha. Like, oh, I'm sorry. Like I didn't know what she'd do with the poison I created for her. Like he's putting on a facade, like very clearly. But then he's dropping lines like the Jedi justify their galactic dominance in the name of peace, and peace is a lie. Torben is not the serene and, as you say, impenetrable meditator. Like every Jedi, he only thinks he's found peace. What he really needs is something only you can give him: absolution. Now, Sarah, is that something that like just a silly little guy doing like silly little potions? Is that sound like something that some guy like that would say, or
Certainly not.
is there something more to him?
Certainly not. I don't think a silly little
Yeah.
guy would be saying something like that. And I also
No.
don't think a silly little guy, I don't want to like skip ahead too far, but I am anyway. I don't think a silly little guy would see the twin of, the girl that you're helping out and say, as he's very, very close to her, you look just like her.
In the most menacing, chilling tone you've ever heard.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's suspicious.
There is absolutely more to him than meets the eye. I think the fact that he knows who him is also him/he.
Oh, yeah.
The Acolyte, the Tooth Fairy, right? Because he makes a couple comments to May about like, oh, you're going to make him so proud of like what you've done. And then May is like, don't tell him about any of this, that what we're doing kind of thing. And it brings up that great joke when Master Soul hears some of that dialogue and he's like, who is he? And then Chimere looks behind him at Yord and goes, I thought he was with you. Like one of the best Star Wars jokes I've ever heard on screen. Like that was 10 out of 10 writing. That was so fucking good. Like I was cackling at that. But
Brad is just a silly little guy. He loves to say a little joke.
But like, what is Kymir's connection to the Tooth Fairy?
Right.
Right.
Is he the Tooth Fairy?
Is he one of the former Padawans of the Tooth Fairy? Like, or is he a current Padawan of the Tooth Fairy? Like we know that they know who the guy is.
Did he supply the Tooth Fairy with the Kazerath device?
Oh no.
What?
Oh boy.
What? It's not impossible. He's a smuggler.
You got a point.
Thank you.
Manny Jacinto, though, is doing an incredible job with this character. Like, I think the fact that he can make that quick change from like a silly little guy to like, hey, I could kill you probably right now is like, whoa.
They also like fight at the end of the episode kind of very, I don't know, knowingly.
Mm-hmm. And how does he also know like where Kelnaka lives, right? Like that's the other piece of this of like, how does he just know so much? And I know he's a smuggler. He's a former smuggler, according to Databank and what he's said. But like, again, I just feel like he knows more than what he's putting up.
What if he dated a Jedi and got all the Jedi hot goss? I'm just saying, maybe they're exes now, and maybe like, but like maybe when they were dating, like he got all the Jedi hot goss, and now he's just like in the know.
It's a non-zero chance. I will say that.
Thank you.
Even if it's like a 0.000000001%, it's not non-zero.
There's no need to be mean to me.
Although I would like that storyline of like him just laying in bed, and then whoever he's like sleeping with is just like, God, that guy Kelnaka on that planet Kofar just never wears clothes. And he's like, I'm gonna write that down in my mind. I'm gonna remember that one.
Right.
You know?
Right.
You have a lot of thoughts on the Torben scene. I'd love for you to talk us through what's going through your mind on that
so
sequence.
Firstly, let us acknowledge Barash Vow. Books, right? Incredible, like very direct reference to les books. And to see an action where he's clearly in an active state of meditation, where he has this like force field, pun fully intended, around him, where he is literally impenetrable. However, he seems fully conscious and fully aware of like what's happening, because when May approaches him and is like, hey, and he's like, oh, hey, you have some poison for me? You know, he immediately opens his eyes and sits down. Now, it's really interesting, one, because he is scarred on his face and over his eye. Something happened, and we know that he's not scarred as a young person in the flashbacks. So what happened that day? Because it definitely came from there. Not saying it, you know, I don't know, but like it definitely did. You know what I'm saying? You know?
I would be as bold to say I think a certain Wookiee clawed his eye out.
Ooh.
Because in one of the TV ads, we see, remember him screaming, and we see Kelnaka's hands around his head, and we see the scar going down his eye. So I think it happens during that fight.
Well, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
But we see him come down and he says, forgive me. He picks up the poison and he says, we thought we were doing the right thing. And instead of confessing his sin to the Jedi Council, a la Elzar Mann, a la Temptation of the Force, no spoilers, but like he's got something to be guilty about that he has not fessed up to. And instead of fessing up, instead of saying something, he literally commits suicide. He literally takes that poison, he drinks it, and he dies. And he hasn't said a word to anybody in 10 years. And this is the first thing he says, forgive me. We thought we were doing the right thing. Off, gone. That was the moment for me when I was like locked into this show, when I was like, oh, I'm ready to go on this ride because something happened. The fact that he's willing to end his own life over take accountability for what happened, or even acknowledge really what happened outwardly, was so bold to me in the context of Star Wars that I was like, oh, we've got something going down. And so I just thought that this was incredibly, incredibly compelling, and it makes me want to know more about Torben the character as we see him as a Padawan. Right, he has a Padawan braid, I think. As we see him as a young person, in the flashbacks that we'll get, I'm so very interested to know more about him and also more about what happened, because like he immediately recognizes her as a older person, you know, like I don't know, but I'm locked in.
Yeah, I agree. I was pretty shocked by that moment. It just feeds more into my theory that the Jedi did do something wrong, and maybe Torben is the only one who has had the self-awareness to actually realize that and take that Barrage vow and go into his stasis for like 10 years, not talk to anybody. Can't even live with himself.
It makes me wonder why he has been stationed somewhere. You know, like why he's at an outpost as opposed to at the temple to like, you know, work this out.
Mm-hmm. Torben's a complicated guy. I feel like his might be the most tragic because again, he just takes his own life. And so I'm wondering if it's an instance of like he feels like he personally did something wrong, or he was a part of a situation that led to something so bad. You know, and that's even like the greater tragedy of it, of being like in the wrong place at the wrong time, so to speak. He might not have had like as much of a culpability as Endara or Soul have, but it was like, I witnessed something I can't unwitness.
Right.
And that's what makes it maybe worse than him like performing whatever tragic thing happened, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like we can't speculate too much on it because it could be any myriad of things, but I feel like the Jedi had something to do with the fire that took the whole village.
100%.
And it might be so much worse than that. Who knows? You know, I mean, I don't know.
6 more episodes to find out.
Yeah. Which, you know, part of this too, leading up to that moment of the body being discovered, is young May running through the halls and Osha following her. Osha almost getting framed. I was like, come on, Osha, stick with the group. Come on, I don't want you to end up at the body. And then it happens. And then Yord coming in clutch. He's like, I followed her. She good.
Shout out Yord.
Checked her out. We're good. Got an alibi. But, you know, we go through those rhythms. We go through Chimere and that interrogation. And we get that great moment I talked about earlier with Yord. And this confrontation between May and Soul. And I think leading up to that, it was so interesting because Soul is almost like having this like Darth Vader moment where he's like, I must face her alone. Like that's what Darth Vader said about Obi-Wan. Like Darth Vader was like, I must face him alone. Like, don't worry about it. And again, it's just like that, oh, this is my score to settle. It's so personal for me. And maybe that conflicts his emotions a bit. But I think a large part of what's driving that is him wanting to fix things, to see if like this is his second chance at personal redemption and at finally escaping that guilt. And I don't think he necessarily finds that. And I'm wondering like what that fallout for him will be of like, I had a chance to make things right in this moment and it didn't quite work out.
Right.
Like, will he keep trying? Does he see a point in keeping on
I think
that?
so. But we'll see.
What did you make of their confrontation and some of the words that were exchanged?
I feel like they're it's interesting. Because like when you watch it happen, like the fight happen, it's so evenly matched, but he's like outdoing her, but like it's so clever to watch, and you can see kind of like the frustration in her face and the determination and like the confidence in his. I don't know. I just found it a really compelling thing, but he feels a sense of responsibility to fix the problem. I don't know if I'm saying anything. I'm not saying anything new.
And it's also noteworthy. He doesn't use his weapon.
Not at all. In fact, we
Right?
get like that slow-mo shot of like her trying to grab it, and like, you know, we just see his lightsaber like holstered on his belt. So it's a really well choreographed piece, which I love.
What is with that, by the way? Because we get a similar shot in the fight with Endara of May reaching slow-mo for a lightsaber. And Soul asks her here, like, why are you not fighting with a weapon?
Well, we're going to see her pick up the lightsaber later in the series. We have that one shot of the trailer where she like force pulls it and she's just holding it. I don't think we can see it ignited, but like, I think we're going to have that reveal of her like finally getting the weapon later. It's going to be like her growth arc as an evil person.
So has she been like tasked with like getting a Jedi's weapon to like prove her kill, to like show off, to bleed the Kyber?
Well, we know that like her task is to kill without a weapon, right?
Right.
But
yeah, the Acolyte kills the dream.
Does she want to procure a weapon as well? That's a really interesting question that I did not think about at all.
But why does she want to procure a weapon? Does she want to strike down her master and free herself from?
It's like General Grievous. She would like to start a collection. What other reason is there, Brad? Like, obviously, like, do you not want a lightsaber collection?
I mean, I do, but like, I also need to pay rent, so I can't.
That's a shame.
I know. I would like the whole collection, you know, like the whole Galaxy's Edge book.
You should maybe commit some murders and take their lightsabers from them.
Skip that.
For legal reasons and for actual reasons. That's a total joke.
Let's not.
Okay.
Say we did, buy them off eBay.
Right.
Yeah, I think that moment when she does get her saber finally, but like, I'm just curious as to why she's not already equipped with one. And this acolyte that she answers to is.
Well, I think she's the acolyte. She is the acolyte.
She is the acolyte.
And it's our tooth fairy who is the master.
Mm. And we know the rule too is like the apprentice always like tries to usurp the master.
Right.
So that's why I'm thinking she wants the weapon. She wants freedom from her situation. She wants to be in control. She feels like she's not in control, right? She's like, Chimere, don't tell him about what we're doing.
Right.
Like there is a power structure there of like, if she does something wrong potentially, or she does it the wrong way, she will not get the approval. It will set her back on that path that she's trying to achieve. Right. And so like maybe getting a weapon is the only way out.
Yeah. 100%.
I think the ultimate point in this episode is Soul telling May that Osha is alive. Great acting, by the way, from Amandla Stenberg. Just the like, you lie, you know, like yelling at Soul. And the exchange between May and Osha in the alleyway where Osha is pointing the gun and there's that gentle music playing. There's that moment of recognition, like all the stars have aligned, the galaxy is calm, the force is calm. It's all in that moment. And then, you know, shit hits the fan. She fires the blaster. Off goes May. And, you know, that's the chase there, basically. We lost that instance. Do you think Osha missed on purpose?
Consciously, no. Subconsciously, yes.
That's fair.
Yeah. I don't think she meant to miss, but I also think she did not want to make the hit.
I think it's fascinating that neither of them knew the other was still alive, which we failed to talk about the dream sequence earlier, and maybe this is a good part to talk about it with just the relationship between these two. But I think there is something going on at like a dyad level between them, this like very innate spiritual connection like Rey and Kylo had, where it was like it's within the cosmic force. You know, they see each other's surroundings. They can do their force time calls through the force. You know, Osha sees a younger version of May, and then we see the younger version of Osha, which I thought was a great use of those child actors and kind of having them be involved in the show. I think is going to be really interesting. I don't know. I think that whole dream sequence during the first episode was the moment for me where I really felt the show was taking some risks and being different. And almost reminded me of like the Force Cave from The Last Jedi with Rey.
Totally.
And that was something else that kind of had me awed and just like, oh wow, this is very different than what we're used to in the Star Wars galaxy. So I'm excited to see if there's more of those instances between the two of them, and what they might learn from that. You know, now that they actually know and they've seen each other, is she going to keep seeing young May, or is she now going to see herself? And when she sees herself, how does that change the dynamic?
That's a really good question about I think, seeing each other going forward. Like, do we think that there's an instance in where they communicate with one another to get out of the power, or to attempt to get out of the power structures that they're both in at this point? Like Osha realigning herself with the Jedi, and like May aligning herself with like the Sith. And is there an instance where they are trying to get each other out of those situations, or maybe Osha trying to get May out of the situation without the leadership of Soul on her own through that method? I wonder if Osha reconnects with the Force at all too, because she didn't use the Force to bring Pip closer to her in the first episode when she's trying to break out of that cell as the ship is going to crash. And she probably could have, but maybe not. Maybe her leaving the Order and lapsing her training, maybe she's at a point where she can't access the Force like that anymore. That would be interesting. But I wonder if she can reconnect with the Force in any way during the series, and that becomes kind of pivotal for her.
Yeah. I think just like the awareness that her sister is alive, I think will change her relationship with the Force very drastically.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
And the question is, like, did she in her mind manifest young May in that vision, in that dream sequence? Or was the Force manifesting it? Or was she manifesting it by using the Force subconsciously? After a traumatic situation of like the ship crashing, right? Like maybe that was her kind of fight or flight response in some way. Like she manifested that in her own mind, but like still connected unintentionally to her sister to like learn of what happened to Undara. I don't know. There's like so many interesting things going on that we can't quite piece together yet. Like why was that connection established?
We'll find out.
There's some good stuff. Good stuff.
And now Kanaka. Okay, we got to talk about Kanaka for like 1 minute before we go anywhere. We're on the planet of Kofar, which is very densely forested. Maybe that's the word, right? And we see these two guys, and I think they're speaking in Huttese, coming across what appears to be like a ship that crashed, and out comes Kanaka to roar his Wookiee roar from behind them and be like, "Bye, guys," and they go. And that's Kanaka, and then the episode ends. So again, that's the funky pacing, that we were talking about. Like, why lead us up to this moment like this? I don't understand. But I'm thrilled to see Kanaka. What a guy. He also wears his crossbody bag, a little bit like Chewbacca, very legendary of him. Has Kanaka met Buriaga? So many questions, no answers yet. Kanaka, king.
So that begs the question, Sarah. Why was Kanaka unclothed? Was he doing laundry?
Yeah, it was laundry day. End of discussion. Yeah. Let's talk about it next week.
All right. Fair. I was really excited. I was very excited for you when I knew like what was happening as we were watching. And I was like, oh my God.
I was like ready to get out of my seat, ready to cheer. And then like the episode ends. It's like directed by Leslie Headland. And I was like, oh, that's fine.
Does Kanaka die next week?
Not next week. Maybe 2 weeks.
That's so tragic. Like, are they bold enough to kill the first live action Jedi Wookiee?
Totally.
Oh, man. That would suck. But I would get it. I would get it for plot. I would get it. But like Kanaka, my guy. It's cool.
Right. Well, life is unfair. To me specifically for killing off a Wookiee that we don't even know is dead yet, because he's not dead yet, but he probably will die. But also he's a Wookiee, so he's not like a regular human, he's a big strong guy. He could probably rip your arms out.
I mean, he could not probably, he could.
Well, maybe he didn't like go to weight training,
Yeah. Has he been lifting in the jungle?
Probably. He's got to find food. Got to get some trees for some fires, get some logs for some fires.
He's got a nice little setup there. I hope we see the inside of his hut.
I think we will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Star Wars needs a show where it's only like the inside of Jedis who have like left the Order or like gone into hiding. It's like a tour of their home, you know, like Star Wars cribs, like Lost 20 edition. I don't know.
Lost 20 edition. Oh, wow. That's tragic.
Like here's Kalnaka's crib. He's very depressed. Here's Yoda's crib. He just makes soup every day. And he lives in a very small hut that's like 2 square feet.
Right. Well, you know, we'll pitch that one next time, you know, we are in front of the Lucasfilm execs.
Yeah.
We'll be like, Star Wars cribs? we're at our end.
We
This show's gotta
hit
end.
the hour 30 mark. So with that being said, this is a fun discussion, Sarah. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I don't know why I said it that way. For joining me. This has been a good one, Sarah. I'm excited to talk about the show in the coming weeks, and I think there's gonna be a lot to discuss. I think like episode 3 is gonna be like a turning point. Hopefully, you know, like the first 2 were very like heavy in the setup and getting us acquainted with everybody, and like now we can really dive into that mystery, start like peeling back that onion a bit more, and start forming more thoughts and more speculation that is a little bit on a path they want us to go down, or like maybe expect us to go down with what we've been given. So I think it's kind of fun to like have a Star Wars show we don't really know much about, like besides, you know, what's there currently and what we know of the High Republic. So it's like kind of an open book.
Totally. Yeah, we definitely don't know where it ends quite yet. And I definitely have my theories, and I assume that they'll evolve as we continue through them, just like the High Republic books. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, that being said, for those of you out there who want to hear more from us, you can find us on all of our socials and any podcast platform of your choice. And make sure to leave a review if you enjoyed the episode, and subscribe wherever you listen.
And thanks to all of our patrons who help keep the lights on here at Friends of the Force. Seriously, we are very grateful. So thank you to AJ, Ben, Brian, Cheryl, Clay, David, Emma, Jennifer, Katie, Knights of Ren, Leanne, Logan, Lucy, Lindsay, Matthew, Nathan, Nicole, Rob, Ruth, Santa, Sky Talkers, Tim, Tom, Toper, and Travis. Very appreciative of your support. And thank you so much to everybody who's joining us for our Acolyte Appetite episodes. We are so excited to be in this era of live action High Republic Star Wars, talking about it every week. So we hope that you continue on this journey with us. Please stay hydrated. As I said earlier, it's getting hot outside, at least for me. And also it's steamy with the robes. Steaming the robes. Okay. Yep. Yord. That's it. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you so much, everybody, once again. And until next time, may the Force be with you always.